What's up, guys? It's Sean Anthony Todd here, the frontman for Differences, here talking about my new album, The Family Portrait, coming out August 26th. And you're listening to John the Ninja.
Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's John the Ninja back and live in the dojo. God's blessings. But again, today, we got a good one for you. The gentleman I'm with, he's got a band that has taken things by storm. Yes, thank you, phone. It's agreeing too. But I love my music, and I love bands that use that music for good. And the person who I'm with, his band has definitely a live show that after you get through it, you're going to be joining that community. And it's not just a community of loving them as a band, but a community of reaching out to your community and helping people out. Get the idea of community, togetherness, helping others? The band I'm talking about is Differences. Their lead vocalist, Sean Todd, their guitarist, Gene Ramirez, BJ, I'm not even going to try and mess up his last name because I love it. Oh, let's try it anyway. Kelek, bass, and Nicholas Miller on drums. They were built from the pain and loss while still being able to express power and growth through their music and lyrical content. The band advocates for change by meticulously crafting and sharing their images and messages via music. Their sound brings energy to an exhilarating performance while exploring the taboo subjects that we often do not speak about. Subjects about drunk driving, sexual issues as called for pretty much a repentance of the sins that we're committing and those who have done it. Anything along the lines of rape, incest, anything that hurts others sexually, they touch those subjects. And to give them a lot of credit, they're getting a lot of love from the higher T echelon. Knotfest was quoted saying, "Differences has mounted the charge for whatever core with their song Body." They'll be releasing their Family Portrait album, which was mixed and mastered by Alex Cote.
Austin.
Austin Cote. See, I told you to fix my mistakes, man.
I got you back.
But their latest single, Journalist, is out now, and here to talk about the Family Portrait, which is out in August, I got Mr. Todd Anthony Gordon. Good sir, how you doing? Look at that smile. Look at that. Man, cheesing it.
Bro, it's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. How is things out in Cali? It's a 4th of July weekend. I'm assuming it's summer, girls everywhere, party going. What's happening?
Not for me, man, but it's hot. And it is one of those things, being growing up, in this genre, we still wear hoodies no matter what. But it's hot. We feeling it. We definitely feeling it.
So, what part of Southern California are you guys from? Because it didn't really mention it in the press release.
Yeah, that was like one of the biggest topics when we first started the band a while ago was claiming where we're going to be from. I'm personally a more like actual Los Angeles. Nick, the drummer, is from like Carson. Gene is from East LA and like Fullerton, that type of area. We just say spread across Southern California. That's what we claim.
But man, to see how melodic hardcore music has actually been branching, there's been not a resurgence but a reinvention. Kind of like when punk pop came into the mix in the 90s. And it's beautiful to see this next generation, such as you guys, taking the wheel. I was curious, what's your story as far as falling into this specific niche? This genre is not the most popular, but for those who know it and love it, it's till death. So what was your musical experience growing up, and then how did you fall into being a vocalist?
So I grew up, actually I grew up in the church. So the first music I was really brought to was gospel music. So I'm really big on like instrumentalists, like bands and musicians coming together, jamming out. So being in a band, that's like a big thing of why I love rock music so much. Grew up loving hip hop, grew up a Radio Disney kid. So I'm just exposed to like a whole bunch of genres growing up. And it was to the point where honestly, I always liked rock music, but when I really was like, oh, I'm into this, I think I was playing like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas when I was like a kid. I wasn't supposed to be, but I was playing it and I heard Rage Against the Machine, Killing the Name for the first time. And I was like, wait, you can rap to rock? Like, that's like the hardest thing I've ever heard. And it just went down a rabbit hole. And then came to high school, got with Nick, the drummer. We had a previous band. I was the keyboard player for that band. And at that point, we started another thing. It was me and him as the guitarist. We booked a show. We got the other members except for a drummer and a singer. Now, the goal was for Nick to be the singer, but we needed a drummer. I never done singing or screaming at that point, but I was like, you know what, Nick, Nick plays every instrument. He's a beast. Like, he's phenomenal. So we're like, you know what, Nick, I think you have to play the drums. I'm just gonna sing or scream. I'll figure it out. I'll practice and we'll get there. First show, chain reaction. We're just like, we're just gonna do it and hit it up what we got. And then then after that show, I was kind of stuck there. Everybody was like, "Oh, that was dope. It was cool." So I was like, "I guess I'll keep going." Well, we're here for now. So, and that was like 2012. So since then, just been a frontman since then.
See, my heart is fluttering, man. You're saying all these things I grew up with too, and that
Yeah, man.
that goes back to what I mentioned with the resurgence and the generation. You know, like for me, it wasn't San Andreas; it was Vice City that got me hooked.
Nah,
It was Tony
right.
Hawk Pro Skater for that Rage
Right.
Against the Machine. So,
Oh my God, bro, one of the best soundtracks. Best, the first one, best soundtrack.
you mentioned that you played piano, and I'm guessing because you were in the church that you were exposed to the music and you learned. I've seen a lot of musicians that have the same story where they're not vocalists, but they fell into it on the same lines of they had some experience with the piano. Even if they didn't know how to pull a chord off, they still would mess with it or were around it a lot. Do you feel like that helped you? What was that styling when you first started screaming? Because I know you lost your voice the first couple of times, but how did that, pretty much all the music taste and knowledge you had prior to, help you in figuring out this is how I protect my voice, this is how I use my voice?
You know, it's tricky. When starting piano, I took piano lessons, and I hated to practice. I hated practicing. I would learn the piece by ear, and then when I got to practice, I would try to fake like I'm reading, but actually doing it. And my teacher caught on. But uh, it came from learning piano, then learning how to play the organ, and then guitar and bass. I started teaching myself when I was like 15 and everything. So I played four instruments, and in playing multiple instruments, it was it was the weird understanding that yes, each instrument is different and requires a different technique, but you do pull stuff from other places. So when it came to like actual screaming and vocalist, being a vocalist, it was I still had to understand some level of music theory percent, but like pitch at that point, to the point of even understanding when I first started doing it, how I'm doing it incorrectly, you know, and I can tell I'm doing it incorrectly, not just by breathing, but the note, even though it is like pure yelling, I'm still on a certain like pitch level or octave, you know? So I'm like, okay, if I need to get better, I need to be able to get to this octave or this pitch. And I start practicing breathing techniques, stuff like that, which I learned from piano training and things like that. So I would say that taking that understanding of melody and harmony and applying that weirdly in a sense of vocalist, being a vocalist.
Do you feel like you finally found your voice musically as a vocalist? For me, if I were to play anything live, it should be the bass. That's what I need to stick to. That's what I practice with most. I would love to be a drummer. I would love to sing, you know, but my heart of heart is the guitar. The Rage Against the Machines, the AC/DCs, the Iron Maidens. That's where my soul sings.
Sick.
So for you, do you believe that singing is that ultimate expression musically for you, or are you more like a Prince where it doesn't matter what it is as long as I get it out, that's my solace?
Oh man, definitely Prince. Even to the fact of creating, like I love the fact that there's that vault of just endless Prince songs that he has that he just never released. I feel the same way too. I just want to create. So to the point of like, even just recently with this album, I'm really proud of this album because sonically, where my voice is at, I feel like okay, I'm nailing what the dream was. Every album before this one, as every single, we will release it. I couldn't listen to it because I would cringe at my own voice. But this is the first time where I'm like, I'm doing the thing. Like I'm actually doing the thing. And I'm really proud of myself on that. So
And I love how you've explained that you finally feel comfortable in your position. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, dude. I was listening to Deaf Perception. Sorry.
yes.
And
yes,
I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, I hear a little Breaking Benjamin. I hear a little Rise Against. I hear a guy that, you know, when CM Punk would come out, he was singing along to Kill Switch Engage. He has a grasp on it. But knowing that you are now comfortable with this production of the family portrait, you know, you guys were touring and doing your thing way before the pandemic. I still remember seeing a post from you guys where it's like, oh, we heard I forgot Turk's band. I'm sorry, the Armenian band. I can see him, Chop Suey.
Oh, System of a no, no, I'm sorry.
Down,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, no, screw that, yeah.
You guys had the balls to say, "Oh, we saw System of the Down canceled their show so you guys could see us come through," and I loved that. That was so quick and smart. You know, tell me about the process of the family portrait, because a couple of the tunes on here really caught me. Actually, let me test you real quick. Let me read this line for you.
For sure.
So I can feel the floor start to slowly sink from the weight of carrying your body. Would it really be bad if I simply quit here and just let it take me? Left to wander this earth all on my own. What song was that from
I have no
that?
idea. I'm kidding. That's anime. That sounds too deep for me. I don't know how I could write that. That's definitely anime.
So you do write all the lyrics, correct?
It's a joint effort. This album specifically is a big shout out to Gene, the guitar player. He put a lot of work. This album specifically, we started writing this in like 2019, and this is like this iteration we're getting has to be like the third or fourth rewrite of this whole album. I think from 2019, maybe one song made it to the full final thing from 2019, but even then, like yeah, no, it's a joint album between me and Gene, and Nick came in with some help. But this whole album in itself is a dedication to his late mom who passed when he was young, and the effects that has had, and that's what the whole album itself, Family Portrait, being the fact of, you know, the world is a family portrait. We have a snapshot of who we are, and usually family portraits, everybody's smiling, but families fight, you know, families go through things, they argue, they bicker, you know. So it's we talk about some of the stories and some of the fights that we happen in this thing, and dealing with that loss in the family and how we move on.
With Journalist, the last single you guys just dropped, you know, it's cool music video, but when you listen to the lyrics and you really pinpoint what is being said, it's almost like a harrowing reliving of a dream in real life. Like you're up for this nightmare, you know. And Gene touches about watching his mom going into delusions, looking at, they had a picture of Jesus on the ceiling, and she would talk to him, and he's kind of in the space of like, what is this? You know, there's no hope in that situation. I was talking to another individual, and he experienced a very traumatic situation because of COVID. You know, his cousin was dying, and, you know, he's like, should I pull the plug? Shouldn't I pull the plug? He made the decision to have hope, and then his cousin tragically died in a way more terrifying way. And he's always held on to that. That was an inspiration for him in one of his songs, the lead singer of Enforced. So when you're given this piece of music as a lead vocalist, your job is to convey that same feeling that the guitarist has written, or whoever wrote the piece is trying to convey, but you have to do it through words. Did you have to go to a dark place to have the power match the music, or was it you could feel your friend's pain so much it was kind of an easy, like, I can do this for him?
It was easy. Definitely had to go to a dark place. A few things for that. A while ago for Depth Perception, we wrote a song called Rescape, which was our first diving into talking about like sexual assault and things like that. And so we don't want to be, as much as we want to be a band with a message, we don't want to just get up and say anything and, you know, not really be about it. So in the process of writing that, we went to some meetings for people who have dealt with assault, some group things, stuff like that. And in talking to people, they told us, they were telling us the prior process, they said, hey, look, if you're going to write about this stuff, don't sugarcoat it. This stuff isn't poetic. Like, this is real life. And there's two moments. That moment for me where I was like, okay, if you're gonna write about this stuff, you have to be real about it. And second, at one point when writing some more stuff, me and Gene sat me down and was like, hey, you know, honestly, we don't have to rhyme as much. You know, we don't have to force the rhythms. And, you know, me, I'm a musical person. I'm like, oh, but it's a song. You know, we go A B A A B B. You got to make it work. But I really sat with that, and to the point of writing some of these things where I would get stuck. The mentality is like, it's not about sounding so poetic here. It's about being real. Sure, I would love, you know, to have deep prophetic meanings in my lyrics. I would love people to be like, oh, that's so quotable because it's just so catchy. But at the same time, like it's just real. Like I just want to be real. So in that process, yeah, you have to go to some dark places, especially things we talk about, because, you know, it's at the end of the day, as a band, we want to inspire people to be a better version of themselves. Not to say that, you know, you're a terrible person now, whatever you're doing, you're wrong. No one's a perfect person. We just want to inspire people to be better. So if we're going to do that, we have to have these real conversations with ourselves and with our audience. And that's the goal when we put out albums like this one coming up.
And ladies and gentlemen, I do want to point out the band does work with Voice for the Innocent, victims
Yeah.
of sex and etc. So check that out after. We're going to go back to that topic, but still on the concept of the album, you know, when you mentioned the AB format and not having to rhyme, that's why I read that piece of poetry. That's you guys writing lyrics in kind of a Nas way. Nas doesn't always rhyme his
Yes.
raps, but somehow
Right.
it fits in the music, and you're like, this
Yeah,
bastard
good
got
point.
it. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Because what's more important, the rhyme or the meaning? Like it's always the meaning, you know.
That's a great question, man. I don't know. I'm an Eminem fan.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
But let's go back to what you said about having to redo this album so many times, and you can hear it in the production. I wanted to know what was the most refined song that you had to work on. What was the one song that it might have been your Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen song, trying to get that one riff, like, damn, we gotta work on this for 2 weeks, and then click, all of a sudden the cradle will ride, or whatever song is coming out. So what was the song that was just a little bit more like, damn, we really gotta get this, and you finally achieved it?
There is a song on there called 62 that we've done. That's the one of the oldest songs and everything. I would say 62, another song, Day Zero, but a better answer to this question would be actually Journalists. Because once we came with Journalists, we were kind of like, okay, we know the feel of this album. We now know the energy and type of tenacity we want to bring to this album with this song. Day Zero and Journal and 62 were like, okay, we gotta get this right. This isn't quite in our lane, but Journalist was like, we now have the feel for the whole album, and this is gonna be it. And we just went and wrote and nailed it all down thanks to Journalist, basically.
I liked Iris. Iris is a little different to me than the
Yeah,
usual.
that's old school differences.
But do you find the band is going in a direction where it's not going to be as in that format? I'm trying to pick my words correctly. Is it going to be more of a punch and go as it has been for this album? And if that's the case, what about Iris made you say, you know what, this still fits in the general grand scheme of the story we're telling?
That's more of a me and Nick thing. Me and Nick are very, especially Nick, very melodic. Nick is also has his gospel singer career where he takes off and he's singing, performing, everything like that. And honestly, if there's ever a song, 100% honesty, if there's ever a song with the chorus and singing, most likely I forced it in there because I'm forcing Nick to sing because he's too good of a singer to not have him sing. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna. And he's like, we don't need a chorus here. I'm like, no. We do. We can add one here, you know. And so for Iris, yeah, that was kind of like our old school style of melodic writing. We're like, yeah, let's throw one of these in here because it's a nice groove. It brings a good energy, a good slow down energy compared to what we usually do. So that's kind of what we brought that one for.
And I do love the line, mirror, mirror on the wall, have
Yeah,
me wondering, and then a happy end. All that was nice, man.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
I because I want to jump all over the place because you're so good at answering.
Just hit me what you got.
So before we move on back to the album, I wanted you to speak on BJ and Nick because you have been mentioning Nick again. We knew he was a gospel guy, and is I want to say severely. I'm saying exponentially talented.
Man,
But
no
usually the guys in the band holding it down, holding the rhythm, don't get the love that they deserve. I wanted to know how, excuse me, how BJ and Nick help you as an artist, how them being in the band push you up. Because Gene's getting the love for writing, but it takes four to make the sound come alive. So what do they mean to you in the band? What is everybody's position?
Yeah, let me give Nick. Nick is me and Nick went to the same like K through 12 school, and we always like hung each other and were friends and everything, but we never knew we liked the same music. Nick is my musical husband. Whether he likes it or not, he's stuck with me. Like he's I'm gonna be working with Nick on anything he needs. He knows he can call me. I got him. And his we're just on the same wavelength musically wise. Of like, oh, we should go here. So it's just I love that man so much, and he knows it. Like he just knows. But BJ, let me give BJ some love. Shout out to Beach. All right. Thickest thighs and legs in the scene, bro. But BJ, we met BJ, I don't even know what year. That's like 2015 or so. I don't know the year. We're old, man. But he was in a band called The Giver. He was a guitar player. And they were like a spoken word, melodic, like hardcore type band. And the way he was just riffing and like it was incredible. So for this band, we've had a few members. Shout out to a few members. Shout out to Jordan, Sean, Marcos. We've had a few members, and the one thing we've been lucky enough to have is each time we get a member, they really feel like family. We never really wanted someone who just comes in and fills in like it's a job, because it's a friendship, a family. We're doing this out of a love of art and creation. We don't want to feel like it's a chore. So at the point where everybody had to step away and everything, we came down to a three-piece: me, Gene, Nick, and we were like, that's it. We're just gonna do that. But we needed a bass player for like a show, and BJ, the giver, already stopped. BJ was gone for a few years, just hanging out, and he's like, you know what? I'll play. I'll give it a shot. And the first rehearsal, immediately, like he just fit. BJ's musical mind as well, the ability to just be like, hey, we need to try to do this. He's like, okay, and he just figures it out. It's insane. He's so talented as well. He's one of the sweetest people ever. And in this line of work and industry, I'm just incredibly blessed to be working with people I work with, Gene, Nick, BJ, because people this talented usually come with huge egos. And these dudes are the like sweetest, most humble people ever. And BJ is definitely at the top of that list of just talent, and yet just anybody can work with him. It's one of those things where if you don't like BJ personally, I don't trust your judgment, because there's nothing he can do that I don't get why you would not like this man. So shout out to BJ for stepping up and filling in and becoming a permanent member, because that's family.
I'm writing that down. BJ, next interview. Okay.
Oh, please, because BJ has some stories. That man is great. He's great.
What are some of the trials you guys have encountered in not just touring, but so far? You said you guys have had lineup changes. You guys are writing songs, even for the hardcore scene, are a little bit, I'm going to say really, a lot of bit more complex than the usual punch and go. And right. It always seems that, like you said, if you have a good soul, you're doing good, no ego, everybody makes it. But there's always moments where somebody has to put their foot down, something has to break. So what are some experiences you guys have had as a band that you've overcome, whether recording and or dealing with the public, touring?
Not much problems. Like, we don't have that much hate or beef with anybody. And even if we do, I won't get into that. But even if we do, it's legit.
You're holding out on me, man. You're holding out on me. We got beef.
It's not beef. It's just we've had some people in the past who have been wrong to friends and family and fans of ours. Even on the line of no means no, bro. That's what we stick to. Like, we wrote Rescape way before some stuff started happening, and then after that, yeah, we don't play that. So, even so, some issues, I would say it's not an issue. I know one thing that we get a lot, that we never take offense to. It happens a lot, but a lot of people, they see us for the first time, and one of the first things they say is like, how are you guys like not signed or like touring, stuff like that? And we never take offense to that. Even to the point where one of our inspirations, a band Let Live, the guitar player, Jeff Salhoun, we got to work with him. He helped record Death Perception. One of the first things he said was like, these guys aren't signed? Like, what's going on? So an issue that people will see with that is, or that might come up with that is, for us, it could be like, yeah, why aren't we signed? Why is it going here? But with the way we move, we understand with how we play our music, it may not fit in a genre completely. We may even be hard to market. And that's okay. Like, we're okay with that as long as we just create our art and everything. So I think most people in our situation would be very discouraged, because maybe they're not making the money they think they should make. Maybe they don't think they have the fame or clout they should have. So that's the closest issue I can say, is that maybe we should be a big band, but at this point, we're just doing it for the love of it, man. That's all we care about, is just creating art and hanging with each other.
What has been a moment where you feel that validation? It's always great. Hey, man, I love what you did. It was good. You hear it all the time, but there's always that one person or email or text where, you finally feel that gratitude that, hey, my work actually touched somebody, and considering the heavy subject matter, what are some of those stories where, or at least a story, somebody touched you with, you have no idea what this means to me?
Quick two ones. A typical one was we got to play at a Pomona Glass House with Into Shikari and Being as an Ocean, two of my all-time favorite bands, especially Being as an Ocean. Freaking love Being as an Ocean. And we were the opener, and then it was just those two. So we get our little table, merch table set up. We have our shirts. We have everything going. People clearly don't know who we are, but you know it's cool. Three bands, and two of them are major ones, and one's a local one. So we get up there. We play our set, and we sell so much merch, and signing autographs randomly, and taking pictures. And the best compliment I ever received on that was people coming up to me like, "Oh yeah, you guys were really great. Have fun on the rest of the tour." But you know, it was a tour they were doing, and we're just playing the one show. But the fact that people think we are a part of this touring package, that they feel we're that good, that was huge. But on a more personal level, one of the biggest compliments for me was recently, my parents got to go to a show. I've been doing this for years. They've always supported me. There's no like hatred like thing for that. They're like, yeah, it's just not their type of music. But they finally were like, yeah, let's go to a show. And my mom, of all people, like they were sitting on the side, kind of like, you know, okay, we're gonna see this. And we came on by the like second song. I saw she was like moving to the front to watch. And I was like, I have my mom watching, and she like likes it. Her little baby boy is up here screaming his lungs out, and she's like, yeah, like that's like the coolest thing to me. Someone who doesn't even care about this music. So to me, that was like, all right, if I am parent solidified, I'm good. Like I'm solid. I feel accomplished. So
See, my mom would have been the same way, man. And I understand because, like, at first I was like, I want the ACD. She's like, I'm not buying that devil music. Luckily, she
yeah, exactly.
understands, like, hey, Biggie, Tupac, that's real life. You can have that. So I got an
Yeah,
A on that. But it's funny how their support, especially our
yeah.
mothers, when even they don't like what we're into, they always kind of give us that.
That's what.
If that's
Yeah.
you, we'll get you there. The
Mm.
band logo, I do love it, but I have to make sure what it is. Is it a teardrop or is it a rain drop?
It's either one. It's literally any type of drop. It's a teardrop. It's a raindrop. It's a poison drop. The main thing, we all have different reasons for it, hence the name differences. You know, we kind of get to cheat and say like there's different reasons for everything because the name differences. But one of my biggest things is it's a drop. Now, what the drop is could be anything. Right now in the family portrait, I usually use the red drop emoji because I'm talking about blood. Like we're talking about, you know, the blood, the connection of people. But mainly when I see it, my main take is for us, usually at the end of a show, I will tell people, you know, hey, you know, you make the difference in your life and every single person around you. And I think people are a drop, whether we know it or not. Us, even if we feel small, once we make these actions and once we go out there and be us, we have a ripple effect. Same way a drop will drop into a lake, even if it's small, it still has a ripple effect. It doesn't, there's no drop that just drops in and nothing happens. Things change and we change and affect everyone around us. We have that ability. So for differences, we hope people listen to our music. It inspires them to be something that affects change.
And again, gotta throw it out there. Not Fest giving you guys love, especially with the whole entire music market so saturated. You guys are getting that validation and respect for what you're doing. So I really wanted to strike it back to this song because I'm a big dude with harmonies, hooks, and the chorus. If you can get me on one of those three, that's my
Solid.
song. And I felt like Trials was that song for me on this album. That was my favorite off the new record. Again, the family portrait, August 26th, people. Why aren't you typing it on your phone? You're watching me on YouTube. Come on, you could do both. Um, walk me through that song and what it was like if you can remember.
It's crazy, man. He got the whole leaked album. Good for you, John. Sick. Trials. Trials is about basically, in a sense, uh, breaking family chains and senses of there are things. The best way I can put it is the sins of our fathers, right? You get things passed on from your parents, and we struggle with, and we have times breaking generational curses. I don't mean to say, I don't make it sound so negative, but trial is that thing of sitting there and recognizing like there are things passed down for me, negative things that, you know, aren't necessarily my fault. And you shouldn't hold yourself and blame yourself for that. And as you're sitting there and you're watching this negativity, it's realizing that you have to be the one to break it. in a more real sense, this one is based more on Gene's life and a situation that actually happened for him. But in the sense, it is sitting there realizing, like, is that who I'm supposed to be? Watching someone, someone, a family member or a friend, and they tell you, like, they're trying to show you this is who you are, and you're having that moment sitting there like, is that who I'm supposed to be? Can I be more than that? Should I even try to be more than that? Because is it just built in me that there's no point, I'll always be that? So trials is that battle in that moment of recognizing, like, the struggle of, yes, you would like to change, but you feel like it's generational in you, so how could you? And it's dealing with that battle.
And I sympathize with that as well. I think my father more so with his struggles. You know,
Right.
back to Gene now, because we already talked about BJ and Nick. But when I see and listen to the press and the interviews, it seems like Gene is gone through the ringer, but you guys are always there as a support system, and it's like you don't have to say it, you know, you don't necessarily even think it. You're just kind of like, hey man, we're here for you, we got your back. Explain to me
Yeah.
what Gene's like and how his approach to playing music and guitar is kind of, you know, like, damn, bro, that's keep doing that. I like that.
Yeah.
What is it like dealing with him, and what's he like as a person? Since I'm not able to speak with him.
Same thing for like BJ. This one times two. If you have beef with Gene, you have to be in the wrong. There's no way. Like there's there's no way. But Gene has brought out that pure art side of me. And the side of me that was trained classically in piano and music, where I'm like, music has to be this way, and it's a structure. Gene's like, why? Just do what feels right. Like, even if it doesn't sound good, do what feels right. So working with Gene in this album specifically, he was like, he came to us, hey, I want to do this. And there was no shot down of like, well, maybe we should. I was like, okay, if you want to be real, we're gonna be real. Let's go for it. Let's shoot for it. Working with him in general, the same way that Nick is my like musically inclined person, where I'm like, oh well, theory wise, maybe it should be like this. Gene is my, you know, F it, we ball person. We're just like, we're going for it. We have to live life. We just gotta go for it. Like we're just gonna do it and push it. And he's the main one. If there's anything I am overthinking, I'm like, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this. I go to Gene specifically because either he'll give me good advice or he's gonna tell me, you're overthinking it. Just do it. And I'm like, okay, if he says it, then yeah. I bias alone, me, because I worked with him so long. I love Gene. It's I wouldn't be doing this without him. Specifically, differences. I wouldn't be in this band if Gene or Nick weren't here, right? Gene especially, Nick too. But I can't sing enough praises about Gene. Like he's just that guy. Underrated photographer. All the music videos you see is underneath his direction, his vision. Um, the artwork is Ryan Lyons, who drew most of the artwork and all for the merchandise, things like that, underneath their vision. But Gene is pushing it. Gene is a true visionary and understanding what he wants, and being different and being ahead of his time. A lot of stuff he thinks of, we'll see a year later another band does, and we're like, yeah, you're right, you should have did it. So true visionary, man.
Bro, you're inspiring me. Y'all need a roadie?
Listen, man, if you want, bro, we're about to go. So yeah, I got you.
I think of the great producer whose name is eluding me, even though I can see him and he's worked with Slayer and he's worked with the Peppers. It's gonna come to me in a second. And I think I'm just in awe of you guys that I can't remember anything in my
Appreciate
head.
that, man. Appreciate that.
But Rick Rubin,
Yes, yes, yes.
he mentioned something, and you guys seem to be hitting it on the head. First thing was like, it's not for the artist, it's for the artist. Do what feels right. And now you're telling me he's ahead of his time, and it's like everybody are just receptors of that energy, of that thought, and it's whoever gets it first or whoever's most open to it, they're the ones that throw it down. And you guys just have a good energy, so it's again inspiring, but also kind of like, we're on the precipice of something big, another music explosion. You guys did the video. Walk me through, since you said he was the music mastermind, he was the photographer mastermind, he was the person behind the scenes making this video go, since he did direct journalist, excuse me. What was it like? What did he bring to the table when you showed up and you said, hey, you have to do this, I want you to feel that? How was his directing as a videographer different than directing musically?
It goes to the same thing. Directing too is if he now for journalists, a little behind the scenes here. We have another music video coming out soon, and for this music video, we shot both these music videos in the same day, same space. We just kind of, and that's his visionary. He's like, no, we can make this work. We're gonna make this work. Gene's thing, one thing for Gene that I will say that people have to get used to is a lot of people, won't BS you and will tell you like it is. But Gene has these piercing eyes that if I'm doing a take, when I'm doing a take and everything, he's like, let's get to it. If I'm doing a take and I'm kind of like, how was that? He'll look me dead in the eyes and be like, it was okay. You can do it better. And it's when you first meet him, you may feel like that's a little condescending, but like as soon as like the third time he does that, you will physically feel that he's trying to tell you how great you are. And he's like, I need you to do this. He's not going to ask you to do something that you won't be able to pull off. And he gives you that option to, if you're going to like give a suggestion back, he's open to it. He won't shut you down or anything like that. But at the same time, there was times on the set where I'm like, well, what if I do this? And he's like, no, we're going to do this. And I'm like, no, you're right. And looking back on the video, I was like, yeah, he was right, because my idea would have been really dumb. And this one really worked out.
Yeah, he Tarantino'd you, bro. That's crazy.
Bro, he's man, like he is, you have to trust it. Like he's not, it just, I just learned in life that if he says he wants to do something, I don't doubt it. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna rock with you, because he hasn't been wrong. He's been on it.
I know we're here to promote the new album, but the one song I really wanted to touch on was 2 a.m. from The Deaf Perception.
Oh,
and another thing I thought was smooth is y'all said, yo, go to our merch. If you buy any of the merch, you can get the EP for free. I was like, yeah, that's a 2-for-1. I ain't going to pass that up. Mm-hmm. But 2 a.m. was one that really caught me. And all those other songs were really good too. That's without being said. But I felt like 2 a.m. was specifically pointed at somebody. And I was curious who that inspiration was, who that person was, that song was attributed to, if you knew.
That was one of the members of the band. It either was Gene or Jordan Damasco, who also helped write some of the writing on this project too. So shout out to Jordan. I love Jordan. He used to be a guitar player. For 2 a.m., yeah, that one was personal. I don't think I ever asked. I never asked who personally I was, but I mean, I've lost an old friend to someone who was drunk driving, which is always very selfish and unfortunate. And even that, of course, we did a music video for 2 a.m. full one-shot music video. Who else thought of that? Gene. Like he set it up exactly how it would work. So yeah, like that one, again, that era was us being like, listen, before the songs we wrote were like, self-improvement, let's get better. But then we're like, if we're going to write about stuff, we got to be real about stuff. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to make it super poetic. A lot of the lyrics there it is basically someone just talking. And the old stuff and this stuff too is just someone basically talking and venting out loud about things. And that's just us trying to be real about it. So 2 a.m., yeah, what a throwback. Wow. That's a good song.
And my condolences to your friend. With
I appreciate that.
Tragedies like that, it can be very difficult to try and deal with, especially if it's your first time around. This is your first real confrontation with death, with somebody you're really close with or somebody you work with. I remember when a coworker of mine passed away. It was like right after Christmas. Her dad was already in a wheelchair. It was completely devastating and like ruined the holiday season for everybody. And it was kind of an eye-opening experience experiencing, I've been to places like somebody passed away. I've gone to their house. I did my best to try and console them. But this was a weird case where it's like all the stories we had finally came into culmination, and it took her passing away for me to finally meet her family, to see how joyous they were even in that terrible situation, And I lied to you not, man, the hardest meal I ever had, and it wasn't because I couldn't put it down. It was just because I felt so bad. You know what I mean? Yeah. The food was delicious. I ain't gonna lie. But, in that case, I had to try and battle the questions of why, how it happened. Did I do enough to try and support her? Because I know she was stressed out of her mind because we work in medical field. during the pandemic, and it was just nonstop, like all that hard work, all that
Right.
progress done. And there's spiritual. I'm a bad Christian, but I'm a Christian. There's like verses in the Bible that will they can help you. You know, it's like, oh, why did
Yeah. Yeah.
good people die young? Well, God's protecting them. I'm not gonna tell her dad that or her friends. You know, so I was
I get
curious.
that.
I was curious with how you kind of dealt with that grieving process.
Shout out to you for working in the medical. You said you worked in the medical field during the pandemic and everything.
But I'm a
Oh,
pharmacy tech too. Yeah.
bro. Any work in there at all? Big shout out to you, man. Big shout out to you. Underrated. You guys were deserve all the praise. But yeah, same thing. To be honest, early on, me myself personally, I am a Christian. Um, and when we first started, Nick too. We first started, we were like, oh yeah, we're a Christian band. But at the end of the day, we're not ashamed of it. We just realize that we just want to talk about on a human level of just improving ourselves. So when you say that, like I totally understand, it's hard to not hard, but there is that balance where the last thing you want to do is probably like offend somebody by trying to bring religion into it. Because if I could be real for a second on here, especially going through, I lost my uncle during the pandemic. And going through all of this, even as a Christian, I still even struggle to find and talk to people about like, it's hard to tell somebody, God has a plan and all things like that when we're suffering so much loss. Because as a human, we can't comprehend it, but how could that be a part of a plan? So even so, like in this frontman line, I do my best to just, you know, be human and understand. And I never pretend I have all the answers. I never want anybody that watches this, anybody that listens to our music, that's not what we're trying to be about. We're not trying to pretend we have all the answers. We're just like a family part. We're just trying to show that we are connected. We are here and we'll figure it out together. So going through like this grief, the band was huge, huge outlet. The whole, screaming on stage. I'm doing better now. But when I first started going through everything, there was a lot of emotion I would leave on stage, a lot. Doing a little better now, but for the most part, yeah, it's the outlet, and we hope that my hope especially is that this album and the hard things and all of our music that we talk through, that there is some sort of relief, because it's easy for us to write these songs and have kind of such negative um energy, not negative emotions and topics in them somewhat. And before I used to try to write a song, I would be like, okay, but I have to end it on a good note. They'll be like uplifting, but leaving most of these on just like, it is what it is. We're hoping that we face these things and that we face it together. Us as the artists who created it, everyone else as the listeners as they take it in, and just that we face it, because that's all we can do as humans. We don't have all the answers. We figure things out, and it's okay that sometimes we don't get the answers. It's okay. It sucks. It does, but that's the grief is at least a part of that, at least that we're here for each other. It's a weird one, but that's basically how it's been going through for me.
I came up with a phrase a while ago for my job. I would say, what's the difference between it's fine versus God's plan? Because I would always say both, and they would be like, what's wrong with you? Stop saying that. And I said,
right.
It's fine when we know what's happened and we can fix it. It's God's plan when we don't, and we'll just let it ride. That's very tricky, and not to take away from the audience. We're experienced in at least the ideologies of Christianity. I feel like sometimes, because my dad's atheist and I kind of have both sides of the thinking, during that time, my coping was, sometimes it feels better to just like, what if there was no God and that's just reality? There was a little bit more solace in like, that's a possibility. But, I think where you have the blessing as far as what you do is, watching Iron Maiden, a big Maiden fan, but Bruce Dickinson once said, if I could have at least one person, he knows more than one person's listening, but if you can, help somebody. If this music is the one microcosm thing in this whole universe that no matter what happens, this makes their day, their life, that moment where they really need help better, then our job is done. And I feel that that's where the blessing of you, especially being a front man, because you're front and center, man, you're the face of the company.
Yes. Man,
even if you don't want to be,
right.
You have that blessing of bestowing the feeling that a person can interpret. that ideology that, hey, I'm having trouble coming to terms with this, and the music you're expressing through the poetry is going to give them that, either that opening the door to, hey, let me deal with this, or kind of like, okay, I'm not alone, I can walk this through.
To add to that, I think you nailed it. Like, it is the point of, again, although I have my beliefs, Gene has his, BJ has his, like we all have different beliefs, and that's also with the name differences. I think that's what's really important for the band is we bring these different cultures and beliefs and ideals, but at the end of the day, we all agree that we just want to improve and be better. Like we want to be decent people. We just want to be decent people. So I want to say that too, because that's not the goal when we go out on stage. You know, my goal when I go on stage is not to fully bring what I fully believe out there onto anybody. Of course, people want to talk to me about it afterwards. I'm always open, even if they want to disagree with me. I'm always open. That's no problem to me. But in the main sense, you nailed it. Like me and Gene had a bunch of talks. On tours, me and Gene have the night shift, so we drive at night. So we
Oh.
just talk, and it's the same thing of like, yeah, man, that's all we care about, man. We just love like during this time. I will say this: I have had after dropping Rescape and then our one of our latest singles, Body. We also talk about more of the assault things, but I have had a lot of when we play a set, I go to our merch table to sell shirts, and I've had a lot of people come to me and then tell me, hey, I've never told anyone, but I've suffered through this, right? And just that has opened my eyes to being like, just be there. And I tell them all the time, like, I'm here, talk about. I really appreciate that. I'm basically a stranger you don't know, but you just feel comfortable to tell me this. Like, I'm glad our music got to that point where you're recognizing that there should be a community. It's not that way all the time, and I don't, it is. You have to be careful. You don't want to, go to some people because some people may not react the way you want them to. But yeah, man, it's just that's the goal. The goal is that we people really open up and find out that this world is bigger than themselves in the sense of we got to be there for people, not just people we love, but people we may not know. It shows like, yes, you don't throw all of yourself at someone you may not know, but at least just be a little open to people.
And it's also a testament to the energy you guys bring. I was talking to Richie the barber. Shout out to Richie the barber. But
Yeah.
he was telling me, he was like, yo man, I would just used to go to the bar and I just want to chill and drink, and all these people would come and bother me, telling me about their lives and what's up, and I'm like, yo, I'm trying to do the same, leave me alone. But he realized, because he doesn't judge and because he's a listener and actually is invested and has, he believes it's that spiritual energy. Everybody has it. There's no denying it. I don't care what you believe. There's like spiritual forces, but it's more so energy. Think martial arts people. You know,
Yes.
certain people have that healing, nurturing. You talk to them and you just feel like you're restored. Um, you know, not to stay on some terrible subjects, but back to the voice of the innocent and
Right.
helping victims with rape. And you said you guys went there to talk about these things. You know, it can be intimidating to a lot of people to try and start doing charitable work such as that, whether it's going to children's hospital, whether it's doing not just prison ministry as in like Christian ministry, but just going to the prisons, doing homeless efforts. You know, what was that like for you guys? Have you ever, done something charitable prior to, and then how did you kind of get into the mix of like, okay, let me continue this. How can we expand on helping these individuals?
It's just who we are. Like, and the biggest thing too was I know you didn't mean it like this, but for everybody else, when we went to these things and these different meetings, we really went to listen. Not, we wanted to hear it because we don't want to just, yes, we know rape and assault is bad. Like we know that non-consensual is bad. We know that, but we wanted to really listen to people. Um, the other thing is like from that we wanted to give that energy of that intensity of it, because one thing we don't want for any of our messages, we don't want people to hear it and be like, oh yeah, that's bad, but them not to get it until it happens to, God willing, but happens to them or someone they love, and then being like, oh yeah, now I'm really against it. Like, why let it get to that point? Recognize now that this is truly heinous and evil. And so for us, it's it's just about being about it, you know. It's easy to we don't. The last thing we want to do is write these messages about things and try to, you know, writing it because we think it's, you know, clickbaity, or like, oh yeah, like we're talking about it because we want to bring it up as a topic, not to go viral or anything like that. And that's never been the goal of putting this music out, or shock value or anything. Like the goal has just been like, we're going to talk about it, we're going to be real about it. And there's some bands who perform some songs, you know, they touch on it and it's great. You know, it's great. No shot to them at all. But some of it is a little sugar coated because even they might be higher up and they realize, oh, you know, we don't want to, you know, you don't want to go too far. But we, as a local band, why not? Like, who's gonna yell at us at this point? So why not go as hard as we can about it? You know?
I always end these with the most important question, and it is, what is the best piece of advice someone has given you? It might have been serious, it might have been a joke, but it's something where you could just be going about your day and it pops in your head, or something serious is happening. And I always reference this guy, Ted Aguilar of Death Angel, right before the pandemic. It was one of the best interviews I ever had, and I really needed that boost. And he goes, man, just live. The way the world is, everything's going down, almost prophetic with the pandemic. But he said, you know, I know people on their deathbed, miserable. Do your best. This is a good time. Try your best not to hurt anybody. You're going to, but as long as you're trying to live your life, enjoy it. Do your best not to hurt anybody and enjoy the ride. And that has always been kind of that thing I hold on to when I'm most stressed. What's something somebody's told you? It could have been funny too, like, oh, rent a tour bus, don't buy one. That was highly suspect. Yeah. That was good. That was hilarious. That was his best advice. So what do you think?
Again, Jeff Sound, shout out to Jeff, shout out to Rich. Rick. Shout out to Jeff Salhood from Let Live, when we were recording Death Perception. And to this day, Gene says it all the time. But he was like, dude, just be a effing band. Like, we were talking about, oh, we want to do this move, stuff like this. And he was like, no, just be a effing band. Like, don't stop worrying about small things. Be a band. Meaning in the sense that if you're going to do, specifically, if you're going to do be a musician and be a band, you got to stop worrying about so much of presentation and how you look. And you gotta be yourselves and what you want to be. Like, you gotta get out there. You have to try things. Failure is scary. It is. But from be a effing band, I'm realizing that failure is only failure if you quit. If you do something and it doesn't work out, but you try again, you didn't fail. You just had a small misstep and now you're adjusting and correcting. Failure is only failure if you quit. That's another small one. But be a band. Be an effing band. Like, along this whole journey is just like, just be about it, man. Stop being half in, half out. Like, oh, but if it, you know, and me personally, I am somebody who's kind of like, oh, I want to do that, but if I can't do it right, so I'm not going to do it at all. You know, like if I did it, it wouldn't be done right, so I'm not even going to try. Like, it's better to, like, this. At the end of the day, I don't have to play mega festivals, stuff like that. I would love to. I would love to play in Japan. That's the main goal, to travel and tour in Japan. But even if I didn't, I'm not walking away from this disappointed. I'm looking back fondly on all the memories I made with all my friends and all the dumb inside jokes that we make, and we have a lot of dumb inside jokes. So I'm just like, I did the thing. I played with bands I've looked up to. I played with bands I've made friends with. So just be a band. And that goes in life. Just do what you want to do. Whatever you set your mind to, do the thing. Be a effing band. So, yeah.
No, ladies and gentlemen, that was such a good interview. Sean Anthony Todd of Differences, supporting the Family Portrait, out August 26th, and you can also find them on Instagram. It's going to be Differences CA. That's all one word. You can also find them on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and again, I'm going to restate is the word I'm looking for. I'm going to restate. I'm going to restate, if you go online right now and buy some merch, you will get their EP for free. So definitely go check them out. Good sir, thank you so much for your time. It was such a wonderful interview.
Thanks. Quick plug. Yeah, Instagram. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. Check out our merch store. If you click on the link, we have all our stuff up for pre-order right now. Get yourself some nice merch. We're a bunch of weebs. We got some anime stuff on you there for you. So check that stuff out.
And for everybody else, be smart, be mindful, rock on, and God bless, guys. Ninja out.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Sean Anthony Todd, aka Shanza, frontman of Differences, and I'm here to talk about The Family Portrait, coming out August 26th. I'm here discussing with my boy on his show, John the Ninja.
Shanza now. We gotta change it up, bro. We gotta put that in the paperwork.
Shanza's my artist name. I'm dropping like some lo-fi stuff. And I was like, I'll just do Shanza. But now everyone calls me it and it really freaks me out. So now I have to kind of just call myself it.
That's good, man. That's like the one words. They always the hitters. Weekend, Prince, Michael, yo. But
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. Oh, your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.